Tennessee added 21 players from the transfer portal, primarily on defense, and boy, does the defensive depth chart, it reflects it.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Monday morning Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Cain. So happy to have you guys along for the ride here on this Monday morning. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Today's episode is presented by the great people over at Mazda, where they put the same drive into every detail, wins define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned later in today's episode for the highlights of moving the game forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Again, we're a part of Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcasting network available, and today's show is going to be a big one. Taking a look at that defensive depth chart now, at least to my best guess, after loads and loads of impact players that Tennessee brought in via the transfer portal. How does that affect the defensive depth chart moving forward? That's in segment number 1. Segment number 2, hey, Tennessee's won 3 straight on the hoops court. It's never easy. Tennessee held on, but it's a game of runs, and that was certainly the case on Saturday. But Tennessee found a way to get it done, specifically with Jacoby Gillespie on the bench for a big stretch in that basketball game. That's coming up in segment number 2. And then we're going to check in with our Locked On Kansas State host, Christian Rauh, get a little Qua Moss scout in segment number 3. All that and more here on a Monday show. Don't forget tomorrow's episode, Twitter Tuesday, mailbag edition of the show. Get in those questions, comments, and concerns for tomorrow's mailbag edition of the show. All right, so there's a lot of newbies to this Tennessee football team. Again, when you bring in 21 players from the transfer portal, when you add that like you did from the signing class, there's a lot there that you feel good about. And when you look at what Tennessee did in terms of like kind of how this could make the defensive depth chart look even different, I think you start with cornerback, and I think Tennessee's going to get I wouldn't say an upgraded corner because, well, Colton Hood was good, and Ty Redmond started to play very well. You feel good about corner, I guess is what I'm just trying to say. I mean, having said all that, you didn't have Jamal McCoy last year. You didn't have Ricky Gibson last year. Colton Hood might be a first-rounder now. Ty Redmond, I think, is a really good player, but you also added a player in Kayin Lee from Auburn that has been a 3-year starter. So you feel really good about where you are at corner. Now, you do add Richard from Miami, Jadais Richard from Miami, who started before. He's played a ton of games. So he's a veteran, and if he's your number 3, you feel much better about the depth now than where you were for the majority of the 2025 season. So you look at corner, I think your 2 starters right now would be Ty Redmond and Kayin Lee, okay? Your backups are probably be Jadais Richard from Miami, and again, one of the combinations of these guys that were here last year, whether it's Tim Merritt and or Trey Poteet. I think your 3rd string would be the other, Tim Merritt or Trey Poteet, along with probably Isaiah Hardage from Colorado, and then TJ Metcalf would also be in that conversation as well. I'm not going to have every single player of the 105 roster that's going to be practicing a corner here. This is kind of just the top 2 to 3 that I can come up with right now. But you feel pretty good about your top 3, all things considering, and then it's going to be up for Trey Poteet, Tim Merritt, Isaiah Hardage, and TJ Metcalf to really come along. Remember, TJ is the younger brother of TJ Metcalf, who I'm going to speak on here in a matter of just a couple of seconds, coming over via the transfer portal. Okay, let's go to TJ Metcalf, older brother. I think he's going to be one of Tennessee's starting safeties. Honorable Big Ten All-Conference this past year. I think he was second team All-Big Ten Conference, according to either the coaches of the AP. Whatever the case is, played in this league, played over 730 snaps at Arkansas at safety in 2024. Got 1 year of eligibility remaining. He's been through it. He knows this league. He knows how to play this position. TJ Metcalf, I believe, is going to be one of your starters. And then the other starter is going to be interesting. Like, I could certainly obviously see Dejon Lane coming in and being a starter at safety for Tennessee because, number one, he knows the system. He knows the defense. He's played for Anthony Poindexter before at Penn State. He's played for Jim Knowles at Penn State. But just like it is with a lot of positions defensively, he's going to play regardless if he starts or not. So, like, I kind of have Idris Farouk, who's a returning safety for Tennessee, and Dejon Lane kind of as co-starters there. That's just kind of how I see it right now. But you want your safeties to be a rotational position. They were a rotational position in 2024 when your defense was better than it's ever been in recent memory. It wasn't a rotational position in 23, in 22, in 21. It wasn't in 25. You need to get back to playing multiple guys back there. And I think TJ Metcalf's a starter for sure. And I could see both Dejon Lane and Idris Farouk playing a ton. Behind those three, if you will, I think Sidney Walton needs to continue to come along. He saw a little bit of action before getting hurt as a true freshman. And then I think DJ Burks, a guy that's coming by way of Appalachian State via the transfer portal from Maryville High School, okay? And a guy that's been there and done that and played a whole lot of football. Not at this level, but he's played a ton of football. So I'm kind of feeling better about the depth at safety than I have in quite some time. You go down to linebacker, and we're going to be quick here because, I literally just wrote it down. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went 5 deep, guys. 5 deep at linebacker. Linebacker plays 2 linebackers in a 4-2-5. Now, as Jim Knowles said on the Mike Keith Show, they will run 4-3 at times, right? It's a package. It's situational. Tennessee did that with Tim Banks. Of course, you still have your linebackers coach right here, and William Inge. So it's not like 4-3 is a foreign concept, and we could see that at points in times. But in a 4-2-5, you play 2 linebackers. I'm going 5 deep right here. My starters, again, rotational position. Probably you hope that the top 5 guys play a ton. But quote-unquote starters, if you will. Arion Carter, Amare Campbell. Amare Campbell, self-explanatory, coming over from Penn State. He's played for Jim Knowles before. He knows the system. He was super productive in it. Arion Carter coming back from the NFL draft. He'll miss spring. He's got to have some surgery, I believe. Was it this week or last week? He had, the double turf toes. He's going to be out for spring, but obviously Arion Carter is one of your best guys, when healthy. And he's the heart and soul. He's the heartbeat of the defense. He's your leader. Guys who will play, but second string, if you will. Edwin Spillman, I think he'll play a ton of snaps. I think Jaden Perlotti will play a lot. Jeremiah Thielander, I think, will play a lot. So going on to third string, if you will, Jeremiah Thielander, Jaden Harmon, who needs to take a step. Fourth string, if you will, Ben Bolton, who had a role in this defense last year. TJ White, Braden Rouse, TJ White, the freshman coming in. Ben Bolton, Jordan Burns, who's a returner. Again, I think the Arion Carter, Amare Campbell, Edwin Spillman, Jaden Perlotti, Jeremiah Thielander, I think those 5 are going to play no matter what. So it's who gets what role, what's the snap count look like, and then how quickly can a Jaden Harmon, Rouse, TJ White push for playing time. I love the depth and the top half talent of this linebacker room, and I really, really think this group has got the potential to be really good where it's not been good. It was not good last year. On the front, we got to move quickly here already. It's 7 minutes in this segment here, or 7:30 in the segment. Leo. Now, what does Jim Knowles want in his Leo? It's going to be different than how Tim Banks viewed his Leos. Like Christian Gass, I have 3rd on the list right here. He was the only Leo in the room to stay for Tennessee football. He's got to gain a ton of weight. You want your Leo to be heavier in this defense. Chaz Coleman is your first string, in my opinion. Jordan Norman is your second string. He's going to play a ton, but those 2 guys I think will play a ton. And then it's up to some of these freshmen to come on and push and see if they can earn some playing time reps. On the other side, defensive end, Tyree Weathersby. Marion Dye, I think, is a really good starting point. But again, who else can step up? I think there's a laundry list of freshmen that can do that. I'll get to that here in a moment. Defensive tackle, Xavier Gilliam, coming over from Penn State. He's going to be one of your starters at defensive tackle. So will David Hobbs. Nathan Robinson will play. Ethan Utley, Isaiah Campbell, Charles House. Those are 6 defensive tackles I listed right there. You better believe that Gilliam, Hobbs, Robinson are going to play a ton. You hope Utley and Campbell can break in that rotation as well. So, again, it's kind of hard to do a quote-unquote depth chart because it's such a rotational position. But, if I was putting a starting defensive line out there today, this is what I would go. Leo, Chaz Coleman, defensive tackles, Xavier Gilliam, David Hobbs, defensive end, Tyree Weathersby. But, again, a ton of those guys will play. And guys like Carter Gooden, who's going to play, Jordan Carter. We'll see if Zach Groves can do anything. Hezekiah Harris is interesting because he was one of those Leos that is going to have to put on a whole lot of weight. Darren Albert, I think, can help in the interior. J.J. Finch, can he get to the field quickly? He's already weighs about 275. Kedrick Golson's probably a developmental player. Darrell Rivers, I think, can help. C.J. Edwards, the old defensive staff really liked. Again, he'll have to gain a ton of weight. And then Quay Simmons in the interior. So those names like Jordan Carter, Carter Gooden, Darian Albert, J.J. Finch, Darrell Rivers, I think those guys have an opportunity to maybe come in and help this defense right away pretty quickly. So it'll be exciting to see kind of what this looks like in terms of the defensive depth chart, but that's why you have spring, and that's why there's a lot of jockeying for pecking order in terms of who's going to be where, and we'll get to see a little bit of that come March, and then, of course, they'll have to continue that in fall camp next August. So, hey, when we come back, Tennessee basketball has won 3 straight. Spoils the homecoming of Stephen Pearl, right? How did Tennessee basketball do it? And what's to come for Rick Barnes' club, and what a funny comment he had after the game. We'll discuss right here. All this and more on your Monday morning Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on all the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels so much bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com to get started today. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Vols your first listen of the day, your first watch. Thank you for making Locked On, the #1 sports podcast network, available. If you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Club. Again, that is lockedonvols.supercast.com. lockedonvols.supercast.com. $5 a month, you get a audio free or an ad-free audio version of the show. You get a chance to buy some Locked On merch. You get access to the Locked On Everydayer Discord channel, where I'm in there chatting it up a little bit, and I'll take some mailbag questions from there as well. So check it all out. $5 a month, all those perks. The Everydayer Club, you can sign up today at lockedonvols.supercast.com. All right, Tennessee basketball. Hey, pretty good stuff, right? I saw a note on Twitter somewhere. Somebody was getting frustrated that everybody characterizes wins like this as Tennessee holds on. Tennessee holds on for a win. Well, I mean, that's the truth. Tennessee led by 16 in the first half. Auburn cut it within 4, I want to say a couple of different times, at least once in the second half. It's a game of runs, and Tennessee and Auburn went on tons and tons of runs in this basketball game. I mean, Auburn doesn't have the number one, or at least I don't think, the number one offensive efficiency team in the country. They're not the fastest in terms of tempo, but I believe they're top 10. They're not number 1 in the conference in three-point shooting. At least they weren't on Saturday, but they still have the trademarks of those things that where they've been under Bruce Pearl, and that's kind of still how they're built a little bit. And Auburn's a really good ball club. They got some good players. I mean, I think Murphy's a fantastic player. Obviously, Keyshawn Hall is one of the better players in all of the Southeastern Conference. Tennessee did a really good job. Came out in the first couple minutes of this basketball game, and as Stephen Pearl said, Tennessee beat them at their own game. They beat them at their own game. They punked them a little bit, and Tennessee was able to jump out to a pretty nice lead early on and built that lead in the first half to 16 points. But going into the halftime break, I mean, what are you doing, Jacoby Gillespie? Goodness gracious, man. Like, for as talented as you are, he's an East Tennessee boy. I watched him play football at Greenville, had a lot of football offers out of high school, wanted to play basketball at Belmont to Maryland, back to Tennessee. He's a fantastic player. Tennessee's not anywhere close to its potential without Jacoby Gillespie. I mean, obviously, he scores a ton of points. He's a star. He is. But he makes these boneheaded plays sometimes. It's like, man, what are you doing? Fouling a three-point shot attempt not once but twice in this game. Once before the half, where you could have took a 14-point lead into the halftime break, but it was only a 10-point lead at 41-31. I mean, we know about the turnovers there at the end of the game against Kentucky. Had a couple of other ones against Florida, and I got it right here. Let's see here. He had a pass stolen from him in the final minute against Kentucky that helped the Wildcats steal a win in Knoxville a couple weeks ago. Had a turnover with 1:43 left at Alabama with the Vols up 4. Had 2 in the final minute of regulation and double overtime in that win against Texas A&M on January 13th. Plus, you foul a three-point shooter not once but twice on Saturday. I mean, these plays are enough to pull your hair out. It's ridiculous, right? But he's phenomenal. He's really good with the basketball in his hands. But what I thought was interesting on Saturday is Tennessee found a way to win without him. He picked up those 2 fouls early on. They put him to the bench, and it was a 7-minute, 21-point stretch where Bishop Boswell ran the offense. And Bishop Boswell looked good. He continued to get steals, get rebounds, and he didn't sacrifice his winning ways, and he does so much to help Tennessee win just because he was running the offense at the top of the key. So I thought that was really critical. And Rick Barnes said after the game, hey, we forced Jacoby Gillespie to sit a couple of days in practice a couple weeks ago. I think that was before the Alabama game. It's like, we forced him to sit because we got to learn how to win without him. We got to learn how to get points. We got to learn how to run some things without him on the offensive end as games go along. And so I thought that was critical in this basketball game where for nearly 8 minutes, Tennessee was able to do that without Jacoby Gillespie running things. Nate Mint, well, it wasn't your most efficient day, but you find a way, and that's what good basketball players do. He attempted 15 free throws. I'll have some stats on these free throws here in a moment. 15 free throws in this basketball game. He made 12 of them, and because you got to the line so much and you converted to the line so much, your 4 of 16 day from the field, it's not the biggest story here. That's an inefficient day from the field, but you found ways to impact the game, and that was at the charity stripe for Nate Mint. He was 2 of 6 from downtown, still made a couple of threes. Tennessee made a couple of early threes early on, that really helped them get out to that first half lead. Nate Mint also had 8 rebounds. He had only 2 turnovers, had 1 assist. He continues to just come along, man. I mean, he's playing some really good football. I mean, no doubt about it, or really good basketball, no doubt about it. You continue to look at his run the last couple of weeks. He scored 105 points over his last 5 games. He had 17 in the losses to Florida and Kentucky. He had 19 at Georgia earlier this week, or last week, I guess now. 23 against Texas A&M, that double overtime win when he took over the game with 10 minutes left in regulation. And then a career-high 29 at Alabama last weekend. He's been really, really good. Most productive game from the charity line, or charity stripe in that stretch, was against Texas A&M, where he was 9 for 11 previously, before the other day. But you look at what he's done at the charity stripe. Again, he was the first Tennessee player to shoot 15 or more free throws since Grant Williams did so against Vanderbilt in 2019, when he went an incredible 23 of 23. I remember when that happened. He's the first player with 12 or more free throws made since Williams that day. Tennessee player has not shot 13 or more free throws since Sean Fulkerson did so against Auburn in 2020. He was 9 for 13 in that regard. No Tennessee players made 11 or more free throws since Zakai Ziegler did so against Vanderbilt back in 2022. So, Nate Mint, again, a day where he didn't have his great stuff, found a way to impact the game and really did it at a high rate for Tennessee basketball in that 77-69 win over Alabama. What else? Felix Okpara did not play in this basketball game. Left calf situation going on. He tried to give it a go. Was put on the injury report in pregame and ultimately was held out from this basketball game. So Dwayne Brown steps in and he starts. He started several times this year. 10 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, 4 assists, very productive game. And he was big down the stretch as well. Last couple minutes of the game, he was really big down the stretch for Tennessee. In fact, there was a stretch, I'll get back to know Felix. There was a stretch in this game where Tennessee ran out there, I believe it was with Boswell, but they ran it out there with Dwayne Brown, Nate Mint, Amare Evans, and Troy Henderson. 4 freshmen on the courts at one time. If you can keep this class together, I mean, this is what's going to keep Rick Barnes coaching for a couple more years, because this freshman class, it's pretty good. Great to get Troy Henderson back. Amare Evans continues to do good things. Brown continues to ascend, and Nate Mint is playing like everybody thought that he was going to play this season. So that was awesome. Anyway, back to Felix Okpara being out. Brown gets the start, had a really good game, was really big down the stretch as well. But how about Jaylen Carrey? It's been a frustrating season for him. I was more excited about his transfer portal addition for Tennessee than I was about anybody else, because I thought he gave Tennessee the ability to bully some guys in the paint, to play big boy basketball down there in the blocks, because he did so at Vanderbilt. He did so against Tennessee with the Commodores. It's been very inconsistent for him, and of course he's dealing with an injury right now that caused him to be sidelined a little bit in that game last Saturday against Alabama. But nonetheless, and he was limited a little bit earlier this week against Georgia. But nonetheless, Jaylen Carrey came off the bench, played 27 minutes. That was great to see. 13 points, 8 rebounds. He was 3 of 4 for the charity stripe, 5 of 9 from the field. Jaylen Carrey stepped up in a massive way. So that was awesome to see. So JP Estrella did so against Alabama and a little bit against Georgia. Jaylen Carrey did against Auburn. Dwayne Brown had a couple of really good moments against Auburn as well. You need Felix Okpara back. We'll continue to monitor that situation as the next couple of days go in this week. But Tennessee's front court, again, trying to make do, piece it together a little bit with some of the injuries that it sustained. So anyway, I mean, it's a win, right? Is Auburn, top 5 in the country right now? No, it's not. But you find ways to win. Tennessee held on. Tennessee outlasted. Tennessee survived the runs from Auburn. Played some good defense when it needed to down the stretch. Again, won the rebounding battle. Continues to get offensive boards. This Tennessee basketball team is starting to do the little things that make it really, really difficult to beat, even if you're not playing your best. And we're seeing that here the last couple of days. Again, Tennessee's got 3 wins in a row. So we'll stay at home, welcome Ole Miss on Tuesday, and then we'll hit the road, go to Rupp on Saturday at 8:30. And then we'll be on the road next Wednesday against Mississippi State at Starkville as well. So Tennessee basketball looking better and better of late, and that is great to see. We'll see what they look like against Ole Miss on Tuesday night. All right, when we come back, we're going to chat with our good buddy Christian Rauh of Locked On Kansas State. He's going to have the scout on Qua Moss, Tennessee's transfer portal edition from Kansas State. That's coming up next right here on a Monday. Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. This is Maz's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Again, I just kind of talked about it a moment ago, but let's go with Jaylen Carrey, shall we? Could pick a number of guys from the game against Auburn, but Jaylen Carrey, again, no Felix Okpara. Carey's injured himself a little bit. He comes back in, plays 27 minutes off the bench, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 5 of 9 from the field, 3 of 4 from the charity stripe. Really, really good effort from Jaylen Carrey when Tennessee needed it the most, no doubt, especially in the absence of Felix Okpara. These remind us of what it takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing into every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Mazda, where you can move and you can be moved. Hey, want to welcome on to the show Christian Rauh of Locked On Kansas State. Going to come on and talk a little bit about Tennessee Transfer Portal Edition defensive back in Qua Moss. Christian, thanks so much for the time, man. Overall thoughts on Qua Moss, the player, the impact he had for your team, and kind of what Tennessee's getting.
Only had Qua Moss for a year at Kansas State, but man, what a stud he was. He turned into a fan favorite. He turned into one of my personal favorites. And if I'm a Vols fan, I am stoked that I'm getting Qua Moss over at Tennessee. This is a guy that I personally think is not only going to shine at the next level in the SEC, but I think is going to be a player that not only do we talk about on Sundays in a few years, but has a solidified position on Sundays as a starting safety in the NFL. So I'm really excited. If I'm a Tennessee fan getting Qua Moss, I'm bummed that he was one of the first people leaving in the portal after the coaching change for Kansas State, because he really did make a huge difference for that defense last year. A struggling defense for Kansas State, but he stuck out. He definitely shined as an X factor in year one for Big 12 play.
So, I mean, obviously he was productive, but why was he such a fan favorite? Was it just style of play, kind of the way he carried his business? What about that?
Yeah, I think style of play is a good way to think of it if you're just trying to be like, looking at it at an overall table, because that's definitely where he popped out the most. I like to compare him to, we're about to play the Super Bowl on Sunday. There's a guy on the Seattle Seahawks, North Carolina State guy named Drake Thomas. He's not the shiniest type of player, but he's one of those players that just fills the voids, a very good glue guy, and just makes people excited. If you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, you know that he's just the guy. He's a really good dude, but maybe not the rest of the NFL knows about him. For Kansas State, he was all over the place. You see him in the secondary. You'd see him on the line of scrimmage. He didn't have great blitzes. He'd have great forced fumbles, interceptions. And even though he might not have padded the stat sheet, he had very important and impactful plays when it really mattered. And especially right off the bat in week 0 in Dublin on a national stage against Iowa State.
What's his best attribute? Is it tackling, blitzing, man coverage, playing in space, playing in the box? What does he excel at the most?
Yeah, I would if I had to say, which is crazy to say because he'll probably be a safety for you. Playing on this line of scrimmage is probably his actual strong point. He's a dare I say he's a dog. Like he's an absolute dog, and it's very fun to watch him play. He's very physical. He hits hard. He has a good job tackling. You know, if you go to PFF stats, maybe the missed tackles might not get you excited, but I think he had a good job at tackling in space. But overall, if I had to point at one thing, I'd say him at the line of scrimmage and disguising the way that he blitzed. He found himself multiple times getting into the quarterback unevaded in the Big 12, and it was really exciting to see.
You look at 12 games, he had 738 snaps, just 6 missed tackles to your point. So that's I'll take that each and every day. Began his career, I want to say in junior college, right? At Dodge City Community College, and then was at West Georgia, and then was at Kansas State. So now he's trying to go up into the SEC and play at Tennessee. You mentioned he's an NFL type guy. Where do you think he fits best? Tennessee's going to play him at the nickelback, the star position, but he played a lot of that at K-State. Safety's probably his home position, right? Played out at corner a little bit, depending on personnel packages. Where does he play? Where does he fit the best? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we played him at the jack, which is something I think kind of the comparison to your star, where you kind of play him closer to the line of scrimmage. I think that fits him perfectly, to be completely honest. And when you talk about his trajectory, going from JUCO to SEC, which I do think then going to NFL eventually is incredible. And I think that makes the story that much more fun as well. I thought personally that he was going to end up eventually in the SEC. I didn't think it was going to be Tennessee though, but since he's coming from West Point, Georgia, I thought there might have been maybe in Auburn or something like that. So Tennessee, I think fell into a really good spot here with Markevius Moss. But if I had to pick a spot for him, yeah, I mean, it makes sense where you said he's going to be at the star and be nickel. I think he's very diverse. He has a very good amount of, he can play multiple different positions. I don't think him at true corner is definitely his strong point by any means, although he does play good at the line of scrimmage. If you're going to play maybe an up close, maybe in a goal line situation, playing at a man-on-man kind of type of position. But overall, yeah, definitely at safety, or if you are playing a blitzing type of safety at the line of scrimmage, that's where he's really going to shine. That's where you're really going to see Tennessee fans be like, man, I really like this guy. And don't be shocked if you're talking about him over and over again this season as a fan favorite for the team.
So why did he leave Kansas State? Was it as simple as wanting to go to a better opportunity, looking for more money, looking for a better chance to get to the NFL, maybe all the above? What was obviously fans didn't like that he left, but what was the reason for his leaving?
Yeah, there was a ton of studs that left Kansas State this year, especially on the defensive side. You had Austin Romaine going for Texas Tech. You had a couple of the edge rushers going to Indiana to try and run that national championship back again. And then Markevius Moss was the first defensive guy to leave once the coaching change happened. That's really what was the reason behind it. Chris Kleiman retired. Colin Klein comes in as new head coach. No ill will whatsoever of why he left or anything among that imagination. But I do think regardless, even if the coaching change did not happen, if Chris Kleiman was still here at Kansas State, if they decided to stick and go one more year back with the old coaching regime, Markevius Moss would have still hit the portal. And not because, again, of any ill will, because of the fact that I think he was ready for the next level. And he continued to take that trajectory from JUCO to FCS to Big 12 and now trying to get his SEC mark. He's a Georgia kid. I think he eventually wanted to wind up there at some point. And then getting himself to the NFL, setting himself up to the best trajectory ever to get him to the pro level. And I think he really is going to do that. I think if he stays healthy, I think you find this guy repping the NFL draft in 2027. You're going to hear his name be called Markevius Moss, defensive back, whatever round. And unfortunately for a Kansas State fan, they're going to say Tennessee.
Tennessee's had a lot of success with defensive back transfers. Jamal McCoy, All-American last year. Didn't play this year because of a torn ACL, but he's probably going to be a first rounder. Colton Hood, who was brought on mainly because of that injury to kind of have some depth, but obviously a guy that they liked a lot that could probably play. He was forced into action, and he might be a first or a second round draft pick as well, coming over from Colorado. So could Qua Moss be that next great defensive back coming via the transfer portal? We'll see for the Volunteers. 286 coverage snaps a season ago for Qua Moss, no touchdowns allowed. For him to reach those goals of playing in the National Football League and play at his highest level in the Southeastern Conference, where is he going to have to improve his game? Nobody's perfect. Where is he going to have to improve his game?
Yeah, I've mentioned a ton of times how he's so aggressive and so physical at the line of scrimmage, but we're talking about a coverage defensive back, right? Although he did not allow any touchdowns, there was not many times that he was left alone in coverage. So I think, going up to the SEC ball, going up to, dare I say, bigger boys in college football, I think you have to get a little bit better in coverage. Just the fact of if you do wind up putting yourself on an island, if there's some blown coverage, if you're in a zone and for some reason your cornerback is willing to have you be there by themselves, you can be able to get the job done. I think he can do it. It's just he hasn't been tested enough. At least he wasn't tested enough at Kansas State. I think that's something, if you had to look at where to improve at, that's where I'd point my finger.
Christian Rauh, Locked On Kansas State, giving us a little inside scoop, the scouts on Tennessee transfer defensive back Qua Moss. Christian, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate the time, and look forward to having you back on.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Really appreciate Christian Rauh for stopping by the show and giving us the inside scoop, the scout on new Tennessee defensive back star player in Qua Moss from Kansas State. We're continuing to chat with as many other Locked On hosts as we can about the Tennessee transfer portal class. That is going to do it here for today's edition of Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough. Don't forget to get in those mailbag questions for Tuesday's show @_Cainer, @Locked On Vols. Comment on this episode on the YouTube channel. If you're a part of the Everydayer Club, submit your questions there. I'll pick those first. And if you want to join the Everydayer Club, again, a lot of perks, access to the Locked On merch store. You got access to the Everydayer Discord channel. We can talk to me during games and just kind of hang out, a little bit more Locked On Vols content. Plus, you get an audio version of ad-free audio version of this show if you sign up for the Everydayer Club. LockedOnVols.supercast.com, LockedOnVols.supercast.com, $5 a month. That is the Locked On Vols Everydayer Club. Appreciate you guys for being here. We will be back at it tomorrow morning, stronger than ever. This is Locked On Vols.